Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and I know some people are still getting seated. So welcome to this wonderful event, both people who are in person and online. We did not expect this many people. We actually thought that we'd be lucky to get 40 people on a holiday weekend. And so we're just glad we could fit everybody in and be nice to one another. Important information is that the restrooms are there to your left, okay? And we're going to begin the program. And my name is Victor Uno. I am a member of the Crystal City Pilgrimage Committee, and I also serve on the board for J-Sei, the organization that is hosting this event and also hosting the exhibit. On behalf of both organizations, I want to extend a very warm welcome to everyone for this grand opening of our exhibit, America's Last World War II Concentration Camp, the Crystal City Internment Camp. Our Crystal City Pilgrimage Committee works to preserve and share the stories of over 4,000 Japanese Americans, Japanese Latin Americans imprisoned in the Crystal City Family Internment Camp. In particular, we seek to bring to light the hidden history of wartime rendition and unjust kidnapping and internment of immigrant residents and citizens of Japanese ancestry from 13 Latin American countries. We seek to ensure proper redress for former Japanese Latin America internees. This exhibit is the start of a multi-city traveling museum effort to share the story of the Crystal City Internment Camp. As you can see, we have many sponsors and volunteers that are making this possible, and we just want to thank in particular J-Sei and the foundation, the Takahashi Family Foundation, that is making this possible. We are honored today to have with us survivors of the Crystal City Internment Camp, as well as other camps. And I'm going to miss names here. There are people who are here but didn't make my list, and I apologize. So Blanca Katsura, where are you, Blanca? Hey, Blanca, good to see you. Eloy, where's Eloy? Eloy, if you could raise your hand. Takeo and Etsuko Yamamoto, new friends of ours. Grace and Jim Kanomata, there you are. Crystal City Baby, right? Flora Ninomiya, hey Flora. Hiroshi Fukuda, and elder brother, I guess more respect, Saburo Fukuda. Kaz Naganuma. Ina Lockwood. Ina, where are you? Oh, she likes to hide. She's way in the back, and she's a Heart Mountain baby. A lot of babies here. Heidi Gerke Donald. So welcome, Heidi. Welcome all, and Bob Oshima. Bob, you're here, right? So Bob was I just found out that Bob was a classmate of my father at the Crystal City High School way back when. So it was a wonderful connection to make today. So many in our community know about Executive Order 9066 and over 125,000 Japanese Americans who were imprisoned in 10 War Relocation Authority camps. Much less is known about the system of imprisonment for thousands of Issei who were rounded up in the wake of Pearl Harbor, taken into custody under the 1789 Enemy Alien Act. I have a very personal connection to Crystal City. In February of 1942, grandfather George Kumemaru Uno was taken into custody by the FBI under the Alien Enemy Act. For 2 years, he was separated from his family, imprisoned at Department of Justice confinement sites such as Griffith Park, Fort Lincoln in Nebraska, Santa Fe, and Lordsburg in New Mexico. In February of 1944, after 2 years of separation from his family, he reunited with his wife, Ricky Kita, and their minor children, my father Robert, Edison, and Kay, in the Crystal City Family Internment Camp. There are literally thousands of stories that need to be told about this camp, and our exhibit is just the start of this effort. The exhibit that we have here in the gallery is a reproduction of the permanent exhibit at the My Story Museum located in Crystal City, Texas. We are excited to premiere this exhibit here in our Bay Area, and we hope that you will share with your friends and family information about this exhibit. It will be open through July, I think, 20th. So today's exhibit could not have happened without the dedication and hard work of the Crystal City Pilgrimage Committee, especially our president of our committee, Kazumo Julio Cesar Naganuma. Kaz, please stand up. Please stand up. I had the wonderful opportunity to meet Kaz in 2019. We were on a pilgrimage effort and a protest at the Dilley internment site in Texas. And so since that time, we've formed a deep commitment to tell the stories of our families and this site. We also have on the committee, he's not here, but Hiroshi Shimizu, many of you may know him. He has decided to be at the Roar pilgrimage, so he cannot be with us. Diane Yamashiro Omi. Diane, you could stand up, please. She's really been critical to this whole effort. Becky Shibayama. Becky, where are you? In the back there. Karen Kai. Karen Kai, where are you? Is she hiding someplace? Oh, okay. Oh, and we have also with us it's nice to have septuagenarians and octogenarians working on this committee, but we also really treasure our younger members, Carissa Tom here. So Carissa. A few advisories. Peak Media over here, you can wave. They are filming survivor stories. They are doing their best to avoid filming anybody that doesn't want to be filmed, so if you have any concerns about that, you can let them know, okay? So a few words of appreciation. All of you received a book today for coming. Libya Hideko Maoki Yamamoto was a member of our pilgrimage in 2019. She was taken from Peru when she was a child. Her book is a memoir of that time of her family in the early part of Japan and then Peru and then coming to Crystal City. So the book is given to everybody as a way to say thank you for coming, and it's a story that we hope you will share with others. We really want to thank the National Japanese American Historical Society for making this book possible and for donating the book for this effort here. Libya's sister Blanca is here, and also her brother Eloy. So it's and the family panel is right over here right behind me, and you can read about the family. Another very important appreciation, in the rolling slides that we had, it showed an in memoriam for Hector Estrada. Hector Estrada was a young, he was born in Crystal City. He grew up there, but he left in 1964 and came to San Jose. While he was a student growing up in San Jose, he never learned about the internment camp. He learned about it by going to the Japanese American Museum in San Jose, and he was shocked. He was really angered and upset. So here we have a Mexican-American former resident of Crystal City who wanted to then take the story back to Crystal City because he knew that people didn't know about it. So Hector was just amazing. He devoted 10 years of his life to researching, self-producing an internment exhibit that he brought back to his city in 2012. And I think what touched our hearts is that we have a hard time telling our own story. And here was somebody from another community who devoted 10 years of his life to do an exhibit, to then take it back to his city, to then tell the story. So we cannot claim to be the first exhibit. In fact, we are going to say that we are following in the example and footsteps of Hector Estrada. We lost a good friend in January of this year when he passed, but we wanted to just note that his passing is very special to us, and his work has meant a lot to us. We are going to start a video now. It is Then Becoming Now by award-winning movie producer Emiko Omori. We want to thank KALW Public Radio. How many of you listen to KALW? Great public radio station. Please support your public radio stations. This will be followed by a panel discussion with survivors, two of whom are in this video. The Crystal City internment camp was an international prison holding persons of German and Italian ancestry as well as Japanese. And so we are honored to have with us Heidi Gerke-Donald with us today. Again, many thanks to our host organization, J-Sei, especially Jill Shoaki, and our staff today, Justin Doi and Carol Doi. And also, very important, I thank my wife, Josie Camacho, for all of the hard work she's put into rounding up volunteers and others for this effort. Okay, please roll the video.
Shines practically every day in the year, with a cool breeze from the Gulf in the evening. This is the perimeter, over which armed guards kept a 24-hour watch. At night, the illuminations and the lights along the top of this fence was visible almost to the Mexican border.
I didn't realize that most of my childhood was in camp, either in Topaz or in Crystal City. December 7th, my father was giving a sermon at the San Jose Conco Church, and the FBI, there's 3 of them, came to pick him up. And I don't remember, because of course I was too young, but my brother, who was 7 at that time, said that he was horrified. He didn't know what was going on. So my father was incarcerated in the Department of Justice camps. He was in Missoula first, and then Lordsburg, and then to Santa Fe, and subsequently to Crystal City. In March or April of 1942, we were all evacuated. We had to go to Tanforan. At that time, I was 10 months old. It was a very difficult time, for all of us to have living quarters in a horse stable and a mattress made out of hay. Most of my siblings, the oldest was, I believe he must have been 9 or 10. They had to carry their own clothing or whatever it was. My mother was pregnant in November of 42. Everyone was relocated to Topaz. And my father was separated from us. We were reunited in Crystal City in 1944.
My parents were living in San Francisco. My grandfather, Iwajiro Shimizu, was an officer with the Japanese Association of San Francisco. Because of that, he was arrested by the FBI the day after Pearl Harbor. And my grandfather was taken to Missoula, and then he was transferred to Lordsburg and then to Santa Fe. My parents were married and together when they went into Tanforan. My grandfather, he came from Santa Fe to Topaz. And just around that time I was born. So I was born in March of 1943. And then in August, when I was 4 months old, that's when 4 of us, my mother, father, grandfather, and myself, went to Jersey City. We went by way of Minidoka, Hart Mountain to Jersey City. Then we were transferred to Aurora before being transferred to Tule Lake. I have a memory of sleeping with my grandfather on the train. Now that could have only happened when I was 5 months old, 6 months old. In December, near Christmas of 1945, he tried to commit suicide by drinking gasoline. And he was taken to the hospital where they pumped his stomach, and he survived. But the doctor's report said that he didn't speak or eat after that. He was distraught over the fact that his son and family were going to be transferred to Crystal City, and he was not. He was 70, didn't have a place to return to, didn't have the family support system, so he tried to end his life. When he wouldn't eat or talk, they determined that he had psychological problems and that he should be sent to a mental hospital. So in February of 1946, he was transferred to the state mental hospital in Napa. 3 months later, he died there. In March of 1946, our family went to Crystal City. I had just turned 3. I left there when I was 4.5.
The FBI came with their guns drawn, and my dad heard about this, and it was going around the neighborhood. He fled up to the mountain with my oldest brother, and the FBI sat there, waited the whole day, then they left. My father, my oldest brother, came back, but then they came the next day and arrested my dad. And they told him that he would have 3 days to pack up everything to get onto the ship. They didn't even tell them where we're going, why we're being arrested. My mom, she thought that this was going to be the end of the family. I'm the youngest of actually 8 children in Peru. Everyone spoke Spanish because that was a language. I was 20 months old. This trip was almost about 3 weeks from the ship to the train ride. And during that whole period, my sister kept asking for milk for me. They couldn't communicate, and they basically ignored her. All through the journey, no one bathed. There's no toothbrush. We went up the coast of South America through the Panama Canal and to New Orleans, the port there. And when we arrived there, they did take us to like a warehouse and had the family strip, not just us, but all the Japanese Peruvians, and they sprayed us with like DDT. Now we're on a train, they covered up the windows. And when we arrived at our destination, my mom saw the Japanese faces, so she thought we were in Japan. And it turned out the faces, they were bus drivers for us to be taken to the camp, to Crystal City camp. Yeah. And she was relieved, though, when we got into camp to see Japanese faces. We were probably the last group of people that was interned at the Crystal City camp, because we were brought in 1944, March of 1944, and of course the war ended in 45. And we were probably the last ones to get out as well. We were there till 1947, September, but that's 3.5 years. At Crystal City, we were served papers to be deported back to Peru. The Peruvian government didn't want us. They wanted the Japanese Peruvians out. They were basically too successful. We were illegal aliens, classified as that. We're illegal even though they brought us here. They said there's no passport, there's nothing, because of course we had no time to get passports and so on. This is when Reverend Fukuda, who was also in camp, stood up for us as well as other Japanese Peruvian families. And he worked in concert with Wayne Collins, the attorney, to get papers to stop the deportation.
The church was occupied by 12 families. My father explained to them that we were taken away forcibly, and that now if they could find other places to live, and they graciously moved out, so we were able to get a church back. Many of the things that were stored away were missing when we came back, but fortunately we were, able to move in right away.
I started school before I was 5. I started school before I could speak English. Since I didn't speak English, they decided to hang a sign on me saying, "Do not speak English." And, for a couple of days or a week, maybe, I wore that sign.
Coming from Peru, being wealthy, they had a chauffeur, they had a cook, they had a babysitter. So life was good. That was what was taken away from my parents. You're penniless. You don't speak the language. They speak Japanese and Spanish, but not English. Luckily, they were in Japantown, so they were able to get by, buy groceries, day-to-day things. But to find a job, there's nothing meaningful. My mom did domestic work. She worked in the laundry as well. My dad found anything he could. Since my parents had nothing, they really had $0. You put as much food on the table as you can, and you get by. My sister, my dad, and myself, we fell in bad health. We all contracted tuberculosis. And I ended up in the hospital. I was undernourished. And I was there for, I don't really know, but a few months.
I think growing up, the church served as a sort of a community center. I lived at the church. We had this basketball court in the backyard, and later on we had these lights where we could play at night. And it used to be a gathering center for so many different generations of kids.
The key for us was to be in this Japanese community. That was our hub. There was safety there for us, our family. lived there, the shop there. Everything was there. The churches were there, you know, and without that, I don't think our family would have made it. We used to go to the Concord Church as kids. We didn't know anything about the Shinto religion, but we used to go Sunday school there. Then eventually, my brothers and I, we all joined the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts.
The Concord Church started Boy Scout troop, and I joined. Troop 58 was the only Japanese Boy Scout troop that was non-denominational, even though it was organized at a church. Troop 58 accepted Tule Lake people and others that didn't quite fit in the Christian or the Buddhist churches. They accepted anybody that wanted to join. It was an interesting conglomeration of people.
The Boy Scout and Cub Scout, this became a really large group of people. We used to have our drum and bugle corps. We used to march in 4, 5, 6 parades, I bet you, every year. And that's, really go back to the Concord Church in particular, that what they offered the community was incredible. As teenagers, we used to have dances there and all that. We never had to get permission, we just did things, you know? But it was almost like an open church. We go play basketball there and do all these things. You know, it was a community center. The three of us were obviously in Crystal City together, but we didn't necessarily play together as such. There is a photo of my oldest sister as a nursery school teacher, and there's Hiroshi Fukuda, Hiroshi Mizu, and Koichi Fukuda, Hiroshi's younger brother. So there was that connection, but we did get together when we got out of camp because, again, the Boy Scouts, the Concord Church. That's when it all came together. And we were friends ever since. The family was stripped of our human rights, civil rights. We were never charged with a crime. We were imprisoned without due process. We don't want this to happen again.
It was 77 years ago that there was wartime hysteria, discrimination, which resulted in injustice. And now, 77 years later, there's hysteria, discrimination, all that in the White House. So that's resulting in discrimination. We must stop that. Don't let history repeat itself.
Our whole effort is to end the discrimination and the imprisonment of asylum seekers, especially in South Texas where we were.
Our message is on our t-shirt. Stop repeating history. Stop repeating history.
But I'm going to ask our panelists to now please come up to the front here, grab a seat, and we are going to try to have a little conversation here. So this is new to me. It may be new to some of you too, being on this kind of panel conversation here. I actually Googled, I've never done this before, so I Googled how to do a panel conversation, and it was not very helpful. It actually connected me to something about how to interview war survivors or something, and I thought, well, yeah, this is kind of applies, kind of, you know. And I want to say to my committee members, I don't know whether to thank you for stepping back and making me do this, but next time you have to do it. So we have some incredible panelists here today. This video, there is so much in it that is so relevant to what's happening today, and it's emotional. I think the personal stories are just very touching and very informative, but stories that there are stories from our community, from our people, and what I wanted to do was just to introduce very quickly, we have two brothers here, Saburo and Hiroshi Fukuda. Saburo, you're the older one, and do you get the respect that the older brother is supposed to get? So anyway, we have Heidi Yerke Donald. She is the founder of the German American Attorney Coalition. And so we are making some new contacts and new friends here. And Kaz Naganuma, who was very prominent in the video. What I wanted to do is very quickly, a sound check. Can you check your mics and then introduce yourself very quickly? Kaz, starting with you.
Hi, I'm Kaz Naganuma. My full name is Kaz Julio Cesar Naganuma, born in Callao, Peru. I'm the youngest of 8 children. My father was taken in 1944 with our family. We were in prison for 3.5 years at Crystal City. And the video probably told you our story, but I just want to say we're thankful to the Fukuda family, Reverend Fukuda, Hiroshi and Sab's father, that looked after us to get us out of camp, and the attorney, Wayne Collins, who did all his work basically pro bono. So I just want to mention their names. Thank you.
My name is Hiroshi Fukuda, and I was the sixth born, and my father was picked up on December 7th, 1941, and he was under surveillance for many, many years, and so they knew all about him, and some of the things that were reported was not connected in any way to activities which might make him a enemy alien, but just because it was in Japanese or he had correspondence to Japan, that was enough reasons for him to be picked up, and also the fact that he was perceived as a Shinto minister. The Konko Church is not a Shinto sect. There are some things some of the rituals were Shinto in nature, but the beliefs were independent. So, how much time do I have?
Thank you, Hiroshi. Heidi, please introduce yourself.
Okay, I guess I'm on. I'm Heidi Gurka, is the way to pronounce it. If you're really in the United States, it became Gurki rhymed with Turkey, Donald. And my story is from Costa Rica. That's enough of a sound check, I think.
Thank you. And Saburo.
I'm Saburo Fukuda. I was one of 7 children in our family.
Hold on. There you go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, oops. I was born in San Francisco in 1934, and my history of camp is Tamparan, Topaz, and Crystal City. So I have some memories as a child. I was 7 years old. Internment, and I was 12 and a half years old when I was released in 1947. So I might have the distinction of being one of the oldest camp internees in World War II. So anyway, maybe I might say a little bit about my father, who was the reverend from Concord Church. He came to the United States in 1930 and established the Concord Church Mission in San Francisco, Japantown. As mentioned, he was arrested on Pearl Harbor Day. I was a witness to that event. He was giving a sermon in a sister church in San Jose, California. And in the middle of his sermon, the doors broke open and the FBI came in and immediately arrested him. And we, as a family, didn't know where he was or where he was taken. And it was until 1944 that we were reunited with our father in the family camp in Crystal City. Now, I would describe Crystal City as a...
Thank you. No.
Yeah, okay, I'll hold it there.
Thank you, Saburo. We just wanted to do a quick sound check, but we also will go into some of the questions and conversations. And also we're going to have at the end of this initial panel to conversation a slide presentation by Heidi so she can talk about her family and the experience that she had from Costa Rica and ending up in Crystal City. So Kaz, Hiroshi, and Heidi, everybody, this documentary that was done, I know that I asked all of you to prepare like maybe 3 things, 3 of your thoughts for, this conversation. So maybe we could start with Kaz again and come down the line about if there were 3 things that you really wanted to convey after watching that video and what you wanted the audience to take away from this conversation.
Hello? There you go. Yeah, thank you, Victor. As the years went by after we were released, my older siblings would say different things at different times, and it didn't mean a lot to me until decades later. And I started to think about maybe I should just start collecting these little sound bites that my brothers, sisters, even my mom and dad said. And life after camp for us was much harder than in camp. My father was in a new city, San Francisco. Reverend Fukuda helped us, I'm sure, find a place to stay. But one of the sound bites that I could remember my sister saying is, we found a place to stay, but we had no beds. We had 9 people in the family. how do you find a place that's big enough? Everything that my father was able to purchase in the years to come was all secondhand furniture. Beds were one of the first things that he bought, of course. One of my brothers said he always wondered why we never had meat to eat. That kind of tells you a little bit about our diet and what we could afford. And one story that I tell people, and people laugh about this, but the youngest three in the family, we never knew this until we joined the Boy Scouts and Cub Scouts, and we would go to a swimming pool, and we would change, and then our friends would say, "What are you wearing?" These were underwear that my father used to make. We couldn't afford to buy underwear, so he made the underwear out of rice sacks. He washed it enough that it was soft, but we didn't think twice about it. And the beauty of the way our parents brought us up was living in poverty didn't mean to look like you're poor. We always bathed ourselves, our clothes were clean, all the pants, anything that was ripped, my father would mend it. So today, most people don't know the difference. When you're poor, you're poor. You just live the way you live. But I think the pride that my family had, my parents in particular, kept us kind of focused about what's to come. And I just wanted to say, to this day, I still don't know how they made it through all the years. And it was at least 10 or more years before we became kind of normal. Yeah, where we had a decent life. But my father he's an J-Sei. He was born in 1890. So he was almost like a grandfather to me. And to be released from camp in a foreign country, how do you find work? He was already in his mid to late 50s. You don't speak the language, you can't get work. My sister, my oldest brother, my mom and dad, the four of them together probably made it just enough money, maybe equivalent to one person's salary. And they made it through, and that's what I'm so proud of, is to understand how do you survive the bad times. And like many other Japanese parents, they never spoke about the camp. And I regret not asking them more questions, but I just got enough of different sound bites that I'll continue to collect because they mean a lot to me now. I just wanted to pass on some of the things that my family said. Thank you.
No, thank you, Kaz. It's incredibly touching. And as you know, as parents, as we grow up and raise our children, we're always so concerned about their welfare and how your parents raised you and your brothers, your siblings, and to know that being basically strangers in a foreign land with the language issues, the poverty, your family story is very emotional and very touching. And the fact that how you were not shamed because you had rice sack underwear, In fact, today they might consider that some designer underwear. But that experience that you had shows the strength of community, I think, and really solidarity of everyone around you that surrounded you. Hiroshi, did you have some thoughts about the video and your reaction to your story that was in the video?
Well, it's very interesting because the three of us grew up started in Crystal City. We were just kids. I was 10 months when my 10 months old when my family was incarcerated, and so when I was in Crystal City, I was just a toddler, and for kids, kids could have fun anywhere, just play around, and some of the memories I had, one of them in particular, was that there was great excitement one time when someone caught a rattlesnake, and that was exciting. and I recall that that there was a swimming pool, and many of us enjoyed some of our days in the swimming pool in the hot Texas weather, and interesting that we had a pilgrimage where we went to Crystal City, and I was thinking to myself, gee, we were here and it was a desert and it was hot, and how could these people live here? Some of the residents. Then I remembered, oh, they had air conditioning, but it was a strange time in Crystal City. And it was interesting that the swimming pool that we enjoyed ourselves in was, for the most part, constructed by the German internees. So thank you for that. And
I just wanted to say that my father and my uncle both were responsible for some of the swimming pool repairs.
well, thank you for that. And it's interesting that most people in our country don't know about the internment. This book, The Train's was written by Jan Burrow Russell, and she found out about the internment camps when she asked one of her coworkers how he spent his youth, and he said in camp. So she said, "Oh, church camp? Not quite." So I think that's one of the important takeaways about this kind of function, where people could be educated as to what has happened in the past, and here, we see it reoccurring, and so I think that's one of the big takeaways, that we need to let people know, what happened, what happens in time of hysteria, discrimination, and when your civil rights are taken away.
Thank you, Hiroshi. Hi, you have a connection to the swimming pool.
I do. I never got to go in. Apparently, the story, they didn't know how polio is spread, and there was a story that swimming pools spread it. So I never got to use it. But I was okay. I didn't even know it existed. You asked about the three things. The three things that I'd like you to take away is, this is painful, and I know there are many of you in camps. In spite of the fact that we're smiling, it hurts. Even if we didn't know we were in camp because we were too small, we grew up and we knew that our parents had been hurt, that they had been afraid and terrorized by the unknown. The amount of camps in the War Relocation Authority that some of you went through, it's awesome and it's awful. I talked to an archivist from the National Archives, and he was looking for for lists for me of people, Germans, who had been interned in Fort Lincoln. He said there were hardly any lists there because they just put your name and a little bit of information on a 3x5 card, and then when you moved to another camp, they threw it away. It was like they're throwing away your history. So that is one thing, the pain that we're still suffering, even if it's a post-traumatic stress, I guess. The second is that labeling people an enemy doesn't make it so, no matter what our current leader of the country says. And third is that we need to fight to try to get these people out of the dilly and all of these compounds around the country. Thank you.
We look forward to your little slideshow in a little bit, and because I think sharing your family story is very important. It's something that we are learning about in this connection, that even though people were in the same camp, oftentimes people didn't know or interact with one another. Saburo, I'm going to hand this back to you, and if you have some thoughts about the video and yeah, your experience.
Oh, again, I think I could compare two camps, Topaz and Crystal City. Topaz was a much larger camp, and one of the distinguishing difference was that it was run primarily by an administration that favored the J-Seis, the English-speaking people in camp, and they purposely put aside the J-Seis and the older Japanese, and they were pushing more Americanization, the American holidays and such. But when we went to Crystal City, it was a total change. It was run by the Department of Justice. The Geneva Convention was in play, and we woke up to living in Japan. The Japanese language was the primary language. We went to Japanese school. We celebrated New Year's, Boys' Day, Girls' Day, Sports Day. So everything was evolving around a traditional family structure. My father was in charge again, and the strictness of the Japanese education system really impacted us. And one thing about camp for children, I believe about 10 or 11 years old at the time, but they used to have camp money, plastic coins, which the camp produced. The government felt that if the internees had money, they might escape. And consequently, they created this coin. And as kids, I remember saving up these coins and trying to get enough money to go to the canteen and buy a Delaware Punch, which is a popular drink in southern United States. It's a fruitful drink and tastes great when you drink it in the summer heat. The camp sort of evolved around what the Japanese traditions were. I think there was a sense of pride in being Japanese, whereas in Topaz, we might have felt a sense of shame for being Japanese. So the whole atmosphere was very different.
No, thank you. My grandfather, this connection that we have, I did not realize his connection to Crystal City in a way that was very intimate. So my grandfather was very fluent in English, written and spoken. And Libya and Blanca and Eloy told me stories about my grandfather because he was the English language teacher for the Peruvian Japanese. And there's an iconic photo with my grandfather and the students from Peru. And they would talk about Sensei Uno, which made me like I just knew him as my grandfather and never as a sensei, because sensei is a very honorific term. But that connection that he made with the Peruvians really touched my family's hearts, because we know that Japanese can be very clannish and very, very particular about who they're going to associate with. So I think what it took to build community in the camp was very important. And then it turns out that there was a German internee who taught my uncle how to be a taxidermist. So there's all these little stories. And I think, Heidi, the terrible trauma that Issei parents went through, the years of separation, it's a very Japanese characteristic not to talk about those things, And I think there's probably things that are good about that. The trauma is you don't, share that sense of shame, but it's also terrible because it's actually something that you don't discover until very late in your life.
And that's my husband's phone. Germans are also stoic, so my father never talked about it. But my mother was an American, and she told me everything. When I sat her down when she was the same age I am now and said, "Tell me, or it's going to die with you." It was hard, though. There were a lot of tears.
Yes. So, in fact, maybe now might be a good time to share your slideshow.
Okay. My father was German. His name was Werner. He and my uncle, his brother, went to Costa Rica in the 1920s. They were young. They were free of post-war Germany with its inflation and hunger, and they were there to make a life for themselves. My uncle went off to ranch or something like that. My father went to the city. He went to San Jose, which is the capital, and there he settled down and made a living being an importer. He then, in 1936, married my mother, who was an American. Her name was Starr. They had a very romantic relationship, all long distance. They had met briefly in Hamburg the year before. And I have one postcard, a very formal postcard, but it must have been a very, very romantic romance, because as soon as he could, he came and asked her to marry him, and she went to Costa Rica to stay. This is a picture of everybody but my sister. At the top is my uncle, Carl Oscar. On the person in white, that's the easiest, that's my mother. She's pregnant with my sister, Ingrid. My father's down at the bottom. His name is Werner. That's me in the middle with my doll. And then up is my aunt at Tia Pani. Carlotta, she was called Pani, I don't know why. And my cousin, whose name escapes me at the moment. So this is about the last picture of us. Ermida, thank you. Yes, Ermida, my cousin. I should have remembered that. All of us went to Crystal City eventually, but this was in Costa Rica. They were gathered because my mother was about to give birth. So then you can move on to the next slide. If you, no, the one with the children. And go back one. Or there's a picture of my mother with my sister and with me. I don't know if you can. People can see it up there. I can't see it on the. Okay, so that was the very last picture in Costa Rica.
Which one were you?
I'm the blonde. Didn't stay blonde, turned white somewhere along the way. Okay, and this that's the blacklist. When the blacklist came, my sister is responsible for everything that happened to us. The day that she was born was the day that FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, decided that he would blacklist people. And in Costa Rica, that is the Costa Rican blacklist. It has my uncle, my mother, and my father on it. And it was the end of my father's business. So my father and mother went off to, they bought a little rundown farm called a finca. Then they were going to refresh the house, which was in total ruins, basically. And they were going to farm their way through the war somehow. They were going to get by. They had a cow, but according to my father, the cow and he did not understand each other, and the cow was sold. They had some bushes of coffee beans. They worked at that, getting them stripped of the beans themselves and doing the things you have to do to sell coffee. But that lasted for only about a year, and then my sister intervened again. She had a first birthday, and right around then, my father was arrested. So he was arrested. He was there for 6 months in jail. It was a jail. It was notorious for being hard on criminals. He came out really gaunt and blank-eyed from that experience. I don't personally remember, but I see a picture of it. These are the tags that we wore after we got to California. But first, I had sat my mother down, asked her to tell me the story. She told me pretty much all of it, sadly but resolutely. And then when it came to the ship, being on the ship, she folded, and I had to collect the story piece by piece between her tears. We all had whooping cough. We had been collected several times to go to the German club because the ship was coming, and then it didn't come, and then we were sent home, and then we were taken back. But one child had whooping cough, and before long, almost all the children had whooping cough. There were 100, forget how many of us there were, but 55 of the children ended up with whooping cough, which included me and my sister. And for those of you who don't know, whooping means vomiting. So it is not a nice experience. And on a ship and in a crowded cabin, it's a terrible experience. So these are the tags that you probably have worn and we wore, saying who we were and where we were going. We went by train, we went by night, so no one would know. Just as what's happening today. They're finding secret places to put buses full of internees, immigrants. And then we ended up in Crystal City on the 12th of February 1942. We were the second group of Germans that were there in the first Latin American group. And almost everybody was sick with something, a lot of skin infections and all of that. But we were isolated, we recovered. And I won't go on about Crystal City except to tell you one thing. At the beginning, they didn't have a store. So they took boxes of food and put them by the door. And there was so much meat, so much butter, so much jam that my parents couldn't eat it all and had to throw the meat away. Meanwhile, on the outside, people were rationed. So it caused a dynamic between the people that worked in the camp and the people that lived in the camp. It changed once the store was available and you could just get the amount of food that you wanted. Okay, and after Crystal City, the first time my father was actually given a real hearing, he was told he could be released on what they called relaxed internment or parole if he had a place to go, and he did, because my mother's family had a beach house in Santa Cruz, California. So we were allowed to leave in May of 1943. We'd been there about 15 months. And fortunately, the rest of my sister's birthdays have been much less momentous. So. Oh, that is the mugshot. Anybody that has been to Crystal City, I think, basically, I've seen mugshots of Japanese, probably Japanese Peruvians. This was taken in February when we arrived, and it was shortly after we were recovered from the whooping cough and all of that. But my father still, and my mother, the eyes are blank, they're dazed, they don't know what happened to them. it's a very painful picture for me to look at. Just a shot of us with a small group of the kids that were in the German preschool. It's my sister and me. We developed a habit of holding each other's hands day and night. My sister forgot how to talk or something because she just stopped talking other than to say mich auch, which means me too in German. And we held hands everywhere we went. So it was just like if you got one, you got both of us. That was a letter that my mother sent, and I just included it because it said we were prisoners of war, and that was, I guess, what they thought we were at the beginning, and then later they changed that to whatever it is they changed it to. Okay, and I think that was the last. Oh, there's one more of us at Christmas. There were a lot of shots. We weren't allowed cameras in those days. Later, people were allowed cameras in camp, but we weren't. But that's the maintenance division. My father is your right top end. Okay, and the little boy saw that picture when I went to, my husband and I went to the Crystal City pilgrimage in 2001 or 2, and he looked at that picture and he burst into tears. He was an adult, but he was that little boy, and his father was behind him, and they had a story of going back to Germany, being sent to Germany, because we were all targeted too. We were to be, the file says that we were Latin American Germans who were to be sent to the United States in transit to Germany. So fortunately, my family we were allowed to say no, we wouldn't go. But many, many people went. Whether they went completely willingly, I'll never know. Oh, and those are the the red.
Oh, the coin. Right. Yeah. Could I add a personal note? My son married a Peruvian Japanese back in 2002. And I went to Peru to attend their wedding. And to my surprise, the service was performed by the Cardinal of Peru in Lima. And I had totally taken by surprise at how well established the Japanese Okinawan community was in Peru. They were all upper middle class tier. They even elected a president, I believe, to Peru. All the businesses, the professional doctors, lawyers were all Japanese. And to describe their house, I mean, they had domestic help. They had a kitchen help, someone in the household. They even had people who drive their cars. So this is, to me, I found out how a Japanese community would have been in the United States if there wasn't that interruption of incarceration. So in some ways, I wanted to mention that because Akaz, his family, was taken out of this very successful community of Okinawan Japanese. And I think the comparison, tells you how Japantown could have been today if the war didn't happen.
Thank you for those thoughts. And Heidi, thank you for sharing your family story. And I'm sure that as you were researching your history and getting stories from your mother, I'm sure that it was a very emotional time to understand what your parents were going through. And I think reflecting back for all of us as we look at the history of Crystal City, the internment, the disruptions, the resilience of people who came out of the camp, to me is what is so powerful. And then what is our duty now as descendants of the camp, knowing this history, Kaz and Hiroshi, just great admiration for being able to speak out against what was happening in Dili and what is happening even worse now with what is going on with just so many deportations, arrests, these detention centers being brought up and established. And just maybe a few words about the current situation, Kaz and Hiroshi and Saburo and Heidi. What is the connection that you see today to your experience?
Hello. Oh, thank you. Well, history is repeating itself again. And you hear it on the news all the time. The immigrants are being taken. They're being taken to other countries without any due process. This has to stop. And the more we could stay involved to protest this, the better. So I would encourage as many of you as possible to go to your Crystal City pilgrimage or your camp pilgrimages to protest what's going on today. It's important and something that we'll continue to do.
Hiroshi? Hiroshi, use this one.
Well, to me, it's somewhat interesting that when all this happened to us in the 1940s, even the leaders of our country, the president, people in Congress, the only friends that we had were the Quakers. And that was not enough to save us. And now, several decades later, we had a similar issue with the Muslims. After 9/11, they went after the Muslim people, and for a period of time, when the Day of Remembrance occurred in Japantown, the Muslim community were invited to participate because things that happened to us were beginning to happen to them. And now, several decades later, the Hispanic or the Latin community people are now at risk with ICE, and the leadership of this country right now is horrible. They're it's unforgivable of what they're doing and what they're doing to all these immigrants. They said they would go after criminals, but no, they're not. They have a quota to meet, and they're just taking anyone off the streets. So that's something that it's hard to understand, and it's still continuing. So hopefully with the midterms and the next election, we will correct this and put some of those people in jail.
I would just like to say that there, are you hearing? Yeah, okay. There is an effort to repeal that act that put us in prison in the DOJ camps. Okay, is that better? All right. There is an act to repeal the Enemy Alien Act. They're hoping there's a coalition building. The German-American Internee Coalition is in it full-heartedly. The Brennan Center is working with them, and I believe Ninjas is involved. I don't know for sure, but there are a lot of people in its building to try to get that act repealed. It's an unnecessary, at this point, act, and it causes enormous damage. We're hoping, I believe, that it will end up at the Supreme Court by maybe this fall, and that a massive turnout at that event would be awesome. Keep you informed.
I would say that there are different ways to view this history. From the government standpoint, they executed a perfect plan. They moved 120,000 people into camp within a few months, and they would rate their operation as very successful. Now, from our standpoint, of course, it was totally unjust, act. And I think it points out the importance of leadership, and particularly today. When you have poor leadership and execute a immoral, policy, you get the results of internment. So I think the lesson I would say is, leadership and information, factual information, not artificial or creative information.
Well, thank you all. This is actually a perfect segue to our next speaker, next presentation here. You were speaking about the repeal of the Alien Enemy Act, and there are efforts underway, and we're going to hear from the speaker from the Berkeley JACL about this update and what is going on with this effort. So let's give everybody here a warm welcome. Thank you for your participation. This is very informative. Actually, we don't have time to do the question and answer. We're going to try to get to the 3 o'clock opening so that people can then view the gallery. But you can please talk to our participants. Yeah. So thank you all, and we're going to have Tara Umemoto from the Berkeley JACL come up and speak to us. Oops.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tara Umemoto. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the current co-president Berkeley chapter of the Japanese American Citizens League, or JACL, and also the Civil Rights Committee chair. I'm actually subbing in for Joyce Nakamura, who couldn't make it today. But first, thank you to the Crystal City Pilgrimage for giving us the opportunity to share a little bit more about the Alien Enemies Act and also the work that's been happening to repeal it. And so I'm reading Joyce's information. And so the Alien Enemies Act, or AEA, grants the president the power to imprison and deport non-citizens from enemy states with which the U.S. is at war. And as Victor mentioned, the national tour of the Crystal City exhibit is very timely, as it coincides with current efforts to repeal the AEA. The exhibit provides timely education about the impact on those incarcerated under the AEA, which President Roosevelt last invoked to arrest and detain Japanese, German, and Italian nationals residing in the U.S. during World War II. Under the Enemy Alien Control Program, the U.S. government coordinated with over 15 Latin American nations to deport roughly 6,600 people of Japanese, German, and Italian descent. They were forcibly brought onto U.S. soil and incarcerated under the Alien Enemies Act. Most of the Latin Americans were incarcerated at Crystal City, along with Japanese, German, and Italian nationals and their families in the U.S. On January 22nd, 2025, Representative Omar introduced House Bill H.R. 630, and Senator Hirono introduced Senate Bill S-193, also known as the Neighbors Not Enemies Act, also the NNEA, to repeal the Alien Enemies Act. The danger of the Alien Enemies Act is that it gives the president a broad discretionary power to decide who is a national security risk without due process. Nevertheless, 2 months later, on March 14th, 2025, President Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act and deported 200 Venezuelans to El Salvador the next day. The ACLU and Democracy Forward immediately filed a lawsuit against Trump for his unconstitutional invocation of the Alien Enemies Act and to stop the deportations. The National JCL, along with Campaign for Justice, Japanese Peruvian Oral History Project, co-sponsor of today's event, and Naoko Fuji, who I believe is also present, representing the National JCL Board's Social Justice Action Committee, are part of the Brennan Center for Justice AEA Repeal Coalition, which I believe our panelists also discussed. The Brennan Center has been coordinating efforts to repeal the Alien Enemies Act and monitoring the progress of this lawsuit against Trump. This lawsuit is expected to reach the Supreme Court in the latter part of this year. The coalition has also developed resources to conduct education and templates for proposing resolutions to local governments to support the Neighbors Not Enemies Act. So far, locally, the San Francisco Board of Supervisors has passed a resolution condemning Trump's invocation of the Alien Enemies Act and supporting the Neighbors Not Enemies Act. The 15 organizations comprising the Neighbors Not Enemies Act Coalition of San Jose, Japantown, successfully lobbied the San Jose City Council and the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors to write letters of support for the Neighbors Not Enemies Act and to advocate for its passage. National JCL, Ms. Fuji, and former Representative Mike Honda, another co-sponsor of today's event, were consultants in developing the legislation for the Neighbors Not Enemies Act. National JCL has been active in lobbying efforts for the Neighbors Not Enemies Act. So far, there are 67 co-sponsors in the House and 9 in the Senate. The JCL joined 60 organizations to file an amicus brief supporting the litigation to stop the current invocation of the Alien Enemies Act, which included personal testimony on the impact of the act on Japanese people during World War II. Many Crystal City former incarcerees and descendants filed testimonies. The JCL continues to participate in press conferences, make public statements, and post social media communications to advocate for the Neighbors Not Enemies Act. Locally, the Berkeley chapter has been conducting outreach to the Japanese American community to involve members in writing letters to Congress through letter writing workshops and information tables at various community events. We have also kept the repeal alive on social media. Last year, we partnered with the Crystal City Pilgrimage Committee and the Campaign for Justice Japanese Peruvian Oral History Project to set up a booth at the San Francisco Nihonmachi Street Fair to conduct education about Crystal City and the Alien Enemies Act impact during World War II. We were able to obtain 100 letters written that day from people in different parts of California, Nevada, Idaho, and Texas. When the Supreme Court hears the lawsuit against Trump, the Brennan Center Alien Enemies Act Repeal Coalition hopes to mobilize former incarcerees, descendants, and supporters to Washington, D.C. to tell their stories at a public program. And so in closing, we would like to thank and to also congratulate the Crystal City Pilgrimage Committee for creating this historic exhibit to tour nationally. Also, thank you to the survivors who've been sharing their stories. We hope that we can partner with the exhibit with efforts to repeal the Alien Enemies Act and advocate for litigation. And so, thank you all. We also have QR codes if you would like to write a letter to your representatives at the table on your left. But yeah, thank you everyone, and thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Tara. That was a wonderful explanation and a call to action. And I hope everybody can get on the QR code and express your sentiments to your local representatives. We are now going to have a presentation by Kaz and Becky. They are part of our museum committee, and we'll get some history here about this museum effort. So please welcome Becky Shibayama and Kaz Naganuma.
Okay, so am I close enough? Okay, great. So Kaz and I are honored to introduce the exhibit Crystal City, America's Last World War II. Museum, let's see. Okay. We'd like to, introduce the exhibit Crystal City, America's Last World War II Concentration Camp. And we would like to, I think Victor might have done this already, but we would like to acknowledge our colleagues on the museum committee, Diane Yamashiro Omi, Victor Uno, Karen Kai, Hiroshi Shimizu, and Rob Busher. Yes. Now, Kaz has promised that he's going to chime in whenever I'm getting something wrong or I'm missing something. If you attended, one of the last 3 Crystal City pilgrimages, you saw a photo exhibit of the internment camp in the high school rotunda. The photo exhibit is the dedicated work of Hector Estrada, who Victor already spoke about. Following several years of research, Hector created a 1,000 square foot exhibit about the internment camp and took it to his hometown in 2012 to teach the history. Ruben Salazar, a social studies teacher at the high school and a current pilgrimage board member, became the caretaker of Hector's exhibit. Ruben had his students put up the photos for us to see at the pilgrimages. Hector's exhibit inspired thoughts of a museum to preserve Crystal City's history of the internment camp, along with its history of the student walkouts and the La Raza movement. In late 2023, Diane and her fundraising team secured a grant from the Takahashi Charitable Foundation to explore the feasibility of a museum in Crystal City. In early 2024, a museum working group met with city officials and community leaders in Crystal City to discuss collaboration on a museum. This led to discussions with Diana Palacios, a former city manager and one of the 1969 student protest leaders. She had purchased a building to fulfill her dream of honoring her father, who was a World War II veteran. Diana invited the group to lease a prime location at the front of her building for an internment camp exhibit. Things proceeded quickly, and plans were made to open the museum a few months later during the 2024 Spinach Festival. The My Story Museum's grand opening was on November 9, 2024, and approximately 250 people attended. The internment camp exhibit included Hector's photo exhibit with captions. In addition, Cause quickly designed the back wall, which included Werner Ulrich's map and a brief background about the camp. Would you like to add anything? Okay. Although he required oxygen for a terminal lung disease, Hector Estrada traveled from San Jose to Texas for the grand opening. He was quite moved to see his photo exhibit on display. Sadly, as Victor mentioned, Hector passed away this January, but his legacy lives on. The My Story Museum is the first permanent history museum in Crystal City dedicated to preserving the local stories. The museum features 3 exhibits: the Crystal City Family Internment Camp, the local veterans of Zavala County, and the 1969 student walkouts and La Raza movement. Thanks to the fundraising team, additional grants were received to further develop the internment camp exhibit. Phase 2 included 12 narrative wall panels depicting the history and what is unique about Crystal City Family Internment Camp. It also includes 8 family story banners and a 3D model of the camp. The Phase 2 installation was targeted for the 2025 pilgrimage. In this photo, Kaz is inspecting the wall panels at the printer. Kaz, would you like to add something about your design? I'm going to switch to another slide. Okay. Victor and team built a camp diorama along with a cabinet for its display. Referencing Werner Ulrich's map and conducting further research, the architects built a detailed camp model to scale. A 3D printer was used to create the buildings, and even the orchard trees had oranges painted on them. Shortly before the pilgrimage, Victor and Hiroshi volunteered to drive a U-Haul van packed with museum and pilgrimage exhibits and merchandise to Crystal City. They embarked on a 1,700-mile journey, and Victor says that Hiroshi was a pedal-to-the-metal road dog. They made it to Texas in 4 days, with both of them safely arriving and with all of the exhibits intact. Today, you will see a replica of the narrative wall panels that were installed at the My Story Museum in the fall. You'll notice that there's also barbed wire, or what looks like barbed wire, along the walls, and that was Victor's idea and Victor's work, hard work. Some of the family banners at Crystal City are also on display here. At last year's pilgrimage, camp survivors and family members were able to look up their barrack number, find its location on an overhanging map, and view where they lived on the 3D model. The diorama was briefly on display at J-Sei before Victor's and Hiroshi's road trip. Today, we are excited to have the first showing of the Maoki family banner. Many of us hold the Maoki family dear to our hearts. Blanca and Eloy and family are here. And we are so thankful to them for sharing their family story. Beautifully designed by Kaz, the banner is on the left wall as you enter the gallery room. Kaz, would you like to say something?
I just want to give a shout out to my design team. It's really important to understand that one man doesn't do everything. You start with good copy, writing from Karen Kai and Becky Shibayama and others. Jonathan Hirabayashi, I think he's over there. He helped us to put up all the panels, so thank you for that. Kim Schultz, who did the panel designs in our gallery, her mom was in Crystal City, and Grace Horikiri is a former employee of mine, and so it takes a good team to do good work. So I want to say thank you to all of them, and please enjoy the panels when you get a chance.
So before we turn it back to Victor, we have 3 quick announcements. First, the Museum Committee and the Pilgrimage Committee are very small teams. Volunteers are critically needed to continue our work, and we welcome your help and support. 2 additional events are scheduled while the exhibit remains at J-Sei. Please help us spread the word about the exhibit and these events. On June 20th, the Campaign for Justice and Japanese-Peruvian Oral History Project will discuss their wartime and redress experiences while making connections with what's happening today. The U.S. premiere of several clips by Peak Media will also be shown. On July 11th, the documentary One Fighting Irishman about attorney Wayne Mortimer Collins and the defense of Japanese Americans at Tule Lake and Japanese Latin Americans at Crystal City will be shown. Filmmaker Sharon Yamato and Collins' son will speak following the screening. Thank you, and we hope you enjoy the exhibit.
Again, just a big thank you for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kaz and Becky. Do we have Carissa in the house? There you are. We have a special presentation by Carissa, one of our younger members.
Presentation is a little oversold. Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Carissa. I am a member of the Crystal City Pilgrimage Committee Board. I've been very lucky and honored to be able to work on the pilgrimage, or be involved in the pilgrimage in 2019, 2023, and 2025. As Becky said, our team is very dedicated, but very small, and it really does take a village for us to continue to do this good work in Crystal City. We will be having another pilgrimage in October 2027, so look out for exact dates. We're excited to go back to San Antonio and Crystal City. But but we also really need your support in helping us plan this committee. So if we can go back to that slide that has the QR code, please add your information to that QR code, join our planning committee. You're also welcome to come talk to me. And then additionally, all of this is volunteer run. Everything that we have been able to accomplish has been through generous support and donations by community like you all. Funding like this is so critical. It's very difficult for us to get funding in this political, it can be, right? We want to be able to protect this public history and continue to tell this story. We have some t-shirts and caps for sale. We have some additional items from the 2025 pilgrimage. If you feel so inclined, please make a donation. And Grace Morizawa will be over there. I will also be over there to help with those donations. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Carissa. And thank you, everyone, for coming today. We're going to open the gallery up now. Please take a view and interact with the panels that we have. We really appreciate the turnout and want to give our thanks and appreciation to all of you for taking time out of your day today to come to visit our exhibit.